All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Wood at this point, and he'll give you his perspective on what's going on with Aginity AMP and how BIQed can play a part.
Hey, Carl, thanks. I hope you folks can hear me okay. My name is David Wood. I'm with the Aginity Corporation. I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I did want to spend a little bit of time just to tell you who we are and what we do. We have a world-class offering of solutions we certainly want to touch on. You're probably familiar with Workbench if you're working with the Netezza environment. The query tool Workbench is a solution that we developed. We have another solution called AMP, and just wanted to spend a little bit of time with you there to let you know about that. We're very happy to have partnerships with folks like BIQed in the fold as well. Spend about 10 minutes, and Nancy, yeah, you can build this out, just to tell you about the history of Aginity. Aginity's been around since 2005. Began as a services-oriented company, primarily around the space of doing customer analytics, helping, I'd say rather, medium-sized to larger-sized companies get a handle on, obviously, doing the best they can to analyze their customer behaviors and go-to-market strategies. Began as a real pioneer in the MPP platform, really began working with Netezza in the early days, well before the IBM acquisition. So we're certainly very accustomed and comfortable working with that. We have a strong relationship with IBM as a result as well. Along the way, Aginity began as a services company and began developing software solutions. So it really went from services, the early years, into a technology-led services operation in the middle years, to 2013 when they said, listen, we've developed these great solutions that are in play. Our role really should be to shift and turn as a software company. And so since 2013, that's been the focus. We really look at ourselves as a software vendor with partnerships and the like as well. Workbench is a tool that we developed in the mid-2000s, came up with that to get a better way to actually query against Netezza, and I imagine we have some good mind share in that realm as well. That's a freeware product, and hopefully there's some good exposure there. 30% year-over-year growth, so we're real proud of that. This is imagine a little more technical crowd, so typically talk about the value first that we do with Aginity AMP. We'll get into AMP. I did want to start maybe with the architecture slide, though. In this case, just to ground you and let you know what we're talking about. I think from a technical perspective, you would probably be asking, well, what does this thing look like as we talk about the value? So let's flip the script and talk architecturally what this is, and then we'll certainly get into the value proposition and why we're different in what we do. Aginity AMP, if you will, is going to constitute in this kind of green box, light green box that you see. The outer dashed line, consider that to be a Netezza or a PDA environment. So obviously in this case we're running solely in that platform. We do have a version that runs on Hadoop, Hortonworks, that's due out as well. We're excited about that, but the mainstay that we're really talking about here is what we do with Netezza. In order to do customer analytics and help our customers really get the big bang for the buck, we help do three main things here, and I'll architecturally explain it. One is we get information, we load information into an environment, various flavors of information, be it digital marketing information, web traffic information, social media, and or in-store, very traditional information about customers, put it in one common repository for use. We have we'll call an ETL environment. It is not an Informatica type of environment. We're not looking to replace any of that content. We're providing simply a very easy-to-use environment where users can ingest, transform, and organize the data the way that they want to do. Really, the main requirement that this person needs is to understand surrogate key management. Once, if they know that, they can actually load the information. Our solution provides a dynamic data model, which is also unique. Most environments, when you're going to go this route to do this data model, you have to really come up with requirements, traditionally come up with a data warehouse strategy, then a data mart strategy, and a very waterfalled approach. That's not the case here with Aginity AMP. Getting data in is very quick. We can prepare it, roll it in a very dynamic fashion that separates the need for a virtual data model. Once the data and new sources are loaded and they're continually coming in, we move to the middle part of the structure, which is actually building attributes or analytic content. If you think of a BI environment where you have metadata that you create, This could be conceived that way. We're building analytic content, but there are two main differences here. One, this analytic content is actually developed by business analysts, not by technical folks. So we're letting the people that understand the requirements that need to get at this do this kind of work. Two, we are creating, if you will, and you see in the middle here, a catalog, or an actual reusable, savable catalog of analytic content that we can share and put together. So when you're building out things like first household purchase date, or you've got average customer balance, things like that, metrics that you want to work with and use, we can create that, save it for then reuse and consumption. We then thirdly have the ability, if you look to the right here, to actually publish this content and send it out into an environment where it can be shared by other users as well as, and very important, other applications. So whether you have a BI application or a predictive analytic application or a marketing campaign application, no longer do you have to worry about recreating the same logic in these silos. You have the ability to create it once, promote it out, of course with IT governance involved, and then actually push that information out. Very powerful, and seeing real benefits of what this does. Architecturally, that's what it is. I'll get into why it's important. To get to what our vision is, the Aginity Manifesto, if you believe, really is around analytics, and I kind of drop down to this bottom one. Analytics should be readily shared and monetized throughout the organization. If you don't have a solution like Aginity AMP, you're typically doing very manual, one-off exercises to create this logic, to use it in a very point fashion, and then to have to go back and rebuild it time and time and time again. Our belief is it's different. Analytics should be created once and used many times. Data scientists shouldn't need to spend time preparing data all the time, and we have the ability to pull that in and not work with that, not have to do that. Analytics should be cataloged so they can be used anywhere by anyone. So the calculation that reads average customer balance should be universal throughout the organization. Analytics should be searchable, should be self-serviceable by everyone, not just IT. Analytic production and publication should, though, be governed by IT. We don't want folks in there. We want the ability to build sandboxes, to do some trial and error, to make sure it's right, promote it out, and have the right resource actually push it out. Should be simple to update a company's analytic content with new data sources. That's always going to be in play. There's always another data source to capture and grab, and that's a big component of what we do. Should be simple to distribute the analytics to any execution system at any time, such as a BI or predictive analytics or market automation. Should be one single version of the analytic anywhere in the enterprise. So this is really a game-changing tenet that Aginity AMP brings to the forefront. So why can't people do this? If you don't have Aginity AMP, what's the holdup? There are several key problems, but two of them that we'll address here. And one is the fact that building, deploying analytics just takes a lot of work. This is a fancy way of saying it's just a lot of work, and it's a one-for-one relationship. So one unit of work is typically built. It has to be manually built again and again and time again. This is all going on typically with technical resources having to build and create this content as business resources dictate to these folks what they're trying to do. So you have a handoff that creates a very bottleneck, if you will. The demand for analytics is ever growing. Once the analytics are given back, is it right? Have the requirements changed? And typically the analytic content is perishable. It's used one time for a campaign, if you will, a marketing campaign, some kind of outreach, and then the cycle repeats. So it's very manual, hard to do. The other thing is ecosystem of analytic-powered applications are built as point solutions. So the ability to share analytic content across multiple solutions is very, very hard, if not impossible to do. Thus, you have silos of recreated math that we'll call it. Sometimes the numbers don't match. The logic is different. And we have the ability here now to create a central repository for that and bring that forward. Very, very beneficial. And I'll talk about some real-world examples before we move on. This really talks about the traditional approach, folks that are in marketing trying to build campaigns to work with their customers. The traditional method, you build a campaign strategy, identify the missing attributes, then it's passed over to a technical resource for actually design, build out, perhaps building a mart for consumption, etc., and then it's going back to the marketing to actually eventually run the campaign. With our solution, we take that middle layer out. So the data is presented in a fashion, all the data sources are there. The business analysts can actually create the content that they want. They can actually put a sandbox together to do trial and error, and then absolutely have full reign to run the campaigns. You'll see not only does this save a massive amount of time and effort, it creates a massive exponential uptick in productivity. Math today or analytic content is disparate. Typical environments, it's all over the place, whether it's in a BI layer or a predictive analytic or campaign management tool or SQL. It's just everywhere, and it's having to be chased and managed and recreated over and over again. This is very problematic as customers go on a journey where they want to start all the way up to be prescriptive in nature. And this is a journey, and it takes a lot of time and effort to get there. If you don't have a tool like Aginity AMP, you are typically working at the base layer with raw data elements, converting to simple math, okay, whether that's in Excel or email campaign targets like exact target. Then you want to get to descriptive, okay, about what channel preferences are out there, discounts, influences, etc. And that's typically in a BI layer. If you want to get predictive, I would argue that's the next layer up, okay, who's at risk to churn, the next visit purchase date. Again, another layer, another point solution, another place to actually have to create math, and then to ultimately be on a journey to get to prescriptive, where we want to recommend to customers this is what you need to buy, etc., based on given entities. All of this is problematic because you have silos and silos of recreated math that you need to manage and maintain. With Aginity AMP, it's built once, it's shared throughout the organization, and the journey is much more fluid and easy to get to. So I say, so what, right? It's great theory if you can talk about how wonderful something is. Are people using it? And the answer is yes, they are. If you look at, I call this our NASCAR slide because of the logos that are on there, but if you look at the bottom, these really are our workbench clients. Again, we've got a nice pedigree. Your firm could be potentially on here as well, folks using that. But the AMP clientele is up in the top. And we work with customers in retail. We work with customers in CPG like Coca-Cola. We work with big companies, small companies. Homemakers is a less than $100 million firm in the Midwest. So we've got a wide range here of content. Any customer that has a lot of customers that they're trying to get activity and harness around omni-channel and work within analytics, they're a great fit for what we do. So I just want to let you know it's tried, true, it's tested, it's out there, and we're very excited about it. Here's a real-world case. I'll leave you with this. Catalina Marketing is a client down in St. Petersburg, Florida. You see how big they are. What they do, it's really interesting. They represent U.S. retailers, grocers, drugstores, etc., and they match those companies with CPG product manufacturers. And this all comes to a head typically in a grocery store or a drugstore where a customer will come in and actually buy stuff in the store based on what the person buys, based on their profile, etc. They're then offered up coupons for a return trip. More product is sold, the CPG folks are happy, the retailers get more traffic, and the customers actually get a discount. So it's a win-win-win. They were struggling to do this very manual approach, as most folks do without Aginity AMP, to do probably 2 to 3 marketing campaigns per cycle, per week actually. And they had on staff, it's a very big Netezza shop, one of the world's largest consumer databases that's out there. They had 5, we'll call it core attributes or analytics that they were using. They were recreating over and over this content to actually outreach to their customers to the tune of about 10,000 manual attributes per year that were created for one-time use, and feeding sources like SAS for analytics, MicroStrategy for reporting, and a market automation system. So they said, we've got to find a better way to do this. They wanted a next-generation omni-channel digital engagement proposition. Let's get all the data in one location, where then secondly, business analysts can actually work with the content, and then thirdly, build a catalog of analytic content that can be reused and distributed throughout the organization. Now their productivity, aside from saving massive amounts of time, etc., now their productivity is tenfold, and they have 30 campaigns running per cycle versus the 2 to 3 that they were before. The deal was inked in late March, and go live went actually at the end of September. So we're very excited about it. It's just one example, just to let you know how it works. And finally, who cares about this? I know folks on the phone today may be more working with Netezza in a technical environment. The people who are really going to care about our value profit AMP are going to be folks like digital marketers, people who are concerned with customer experiences. These kind of titles have popped up now in the organizations. Chief analytics officers, chief data officers. Not the typical IT folks that are concerned with data security and moving data. These folks are concerned with making money with the data. How are we going to, leverage what we have to actually get a better return? Those are the folks we'd like to get introduced to. So if on the phone today we have people that say, yeah, that'd be a great idea to talk to those folks, that's what we're after. So I hope that helps. Okay, we'll pass it on.
All right, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat window and we will address those.